Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Flying Chariots, The Rise podcast. Today you have myself, Luna, and we also have Dustin, as you guys know. And today we are joined by somebody amazing, Susy Bastille. Hi, welcome in. So she is known for being the Pukwudgie whisperer, more into the cryptids, and also I want to even get more into the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, and I really want to talk about that because I don't know much about it. So welcome in, Susy. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such an honor to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you got started.
So I am I'd say an independent researcher, not an expert at all, because how can you be with these things? So I am from the general area of the Bridgewater Triangle where a lot of Pukwudgie sightings are. I live a little over an hour away. And growing up, my dad used to kind of use Pukwudgies as the boogeyman for us to get us to behave. So, we lived in the middle of nowhere. So he'd say things like, don't go near the swamp, the Pukwudgies will get you, or don't go too far out in the woods, the Pukwudgies will get you. And I had
Oh my gosh.
actually thought it was something he had just made up until they came out with a Bridgewater Triangle documentary in 2013. And they talk about them in that documentary. And I said, oh, my dad didn't make those up. So that's when I had specifically gotten interested in Pukwudgies in a more serious way. But at first, even I was just looking at it as like, oh, this is like cool local folklore. And then when I started looking into it, I said, there's more to this than that. It's not just, an old, tale of these little people. And, it kind of spiraled from there. There wasn't a whole lot online that you could find. If you just Google Pukwudgies, you get like the same like 5 lines about them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I had to kind of do more boots on the ground stuff and get out there and, talk to indigenous people because it is Wampanoag folklore in the area. I've had to, get some expensive out of print old books and things like that to kind of, figure out what was going on there.
So, for anybody who's listening or watching, can you explain to them what a pug wedgie is?
So that's the name of the wee folk or little people in New England, the Northeast area, Great Lakes region, Southeast Canada. Different tribes have different names for them. And, the description varies a little bit place to place. But specifically in the Bridgewater Triangle, which is, it's like where Cape Cod meets the rest of the state in Massachusetts. It's where the Wampanoag tribe was. And they had very specific folklore about Pukwudgies that was a little different than other tribes in the Northeast. They're tricksters. All we folk lore around the world, they're always tricksters. So you have like, gnomes, duendes, leprechauns, even. They're always known to be tricksters, but not dangerous, except in Wampanoag lore in the Bridgewater Triangle. They are supposed to be dangerous there. Things like
So,
luring people off of a cliff and things like that.
Shit.
Yeah.
oh my goodness. So, anytime I've ever seen a pug wedgie, they've always been like what I explained to Dustin. They kind of look like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, like super hunched over, and they've got like spikes coming off their back, like a porcupine, and like they kind of walk like an older man, and they're like really short, maybe like 2 feet tall. Would you say that that sounds pretty accurate, or is that just completely ridiculous?
That's the like traditional description. Um, but they're known to be shapeshifters too. So,
Mhm.
In the Bridgewater Triangle area, they have one description, and there's also a region in Indiana that calls their wee folk Pukwudgie. They have a completely different description. And all of the sightings in the Bridgewater Triangle don't follow that same description. I don't know if we call them shapeshifters because it's easier to palette that they're shapeshifting than we have like multiple different kinds of creatures out there. So, they could be the same thing, shapeshifting, or it could be completely different. But in Hockomock Swamp, which is part of the Bridgewater Triangle, they are about 2 to 3 feet tall. They kind of have almost chipmunk-like face and the quills on their head and their back, like you said. But in Indiana, Mound State Park is where they're sighted. The Pukwudgies there have blonde hair that is like a bowl cut, basically. And they have pointy ears that like stick out of the hair, and they wear blue clothing, which is generally described of as a smock. So they're a little bit more refined and stylish out there. The ones here are said to have a pot belly so big you can't tell if they're wearing pants or not because it hangs down.
Huh.
Okay, interesting.
Wow. No, that's
So
insane.
they're native. So they're supposed to be native. Do you think they're like a protector of the native? You said Wampanoag. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, the tribe. But here's also another thing too. You also hear about skinwalkers, which is a type of native as well. And they're
Mhm.
also supposed to be a shapeshifter as well. So I wonder if there's like just a tie with all this shapeshifting within the native tribes and stuff. Do you think they're just a protector of that tribe?
So yeah, I do. Um, they seem to always be sighted wherever there is a burial ground.
Mhm.
So Hockomock Swamp, they've found skeletons in there that are at least 8,000 years old. It's been inhabited that long. The Wampanoag use it as a burial ground. Mound State Park in Indiana is the same thing. There's another region in Ohio and Illinois that have those burial mounds there too, where they're spotted. Um, in this area, there's like a common myth that they're like a Native American curse is what caused the Bridgewater Triangle. But it was weird before the war happened that people blame the curse on. Hockomock means place where the spirits dwell.
Mhm.
So why would you name it that if there wasn't already something going on there?
Yeah.
True.
So like the way I feel about it is, indigenous people were much more connected to the land. So why would you not want to bury your dead in a thin spot? Well, or like John Keel called it a window area, a place where it's easier for things to cross back and forth.
Mhm.
So the Wampanoag people will tell you they were here before Europeans. It's not about you. Um, the
Yeah.
the legends were, there's been sightings in the Bridgewater Triangle hundreds of years ago. I mean, it's it was it was weird before we were here. It's been weird, as long as people here remember it being here.
Yeah, because I was wondering if the folklore and the creature itself came from Europe, because you hear about Germany, especially has the short dwarfs and trolls and other smaller creatures too. So it makes you in it. So it's amazing that these creatures had been here since the dawn of time. And I just think that Earth, the Disneyland of the galaxy, with all these creatures just running around in and out. They could be
Yeah, and there's like
multi-dimensional.
weirdly similar lore in places that are not connected at all. Like you have
Mm.
gnomes in Scandinavia that have the pointy red hats. You also have that in South and Central America with the duendes, pointy red hats, little people also, and in the Philippines.
Mm.
So like
Yeah.
3 places that like, historically were not communicating back and forth had the exact same folklore.
That's eerie.
Have
It's
you ever seen one?
I've never seen anything. So I used to like get really like offended by it, but now I look at it like maybe some of us are meant to remain objective observers so we can kind of document and look at other people's experiences better. That it
Yeah.
makes me help me sleep at night anyway.
Right. Right. So, with all of your research, how long have you been researching the cryptids, specifically the Pukwudgie?
Pukwudgie specifically about 10 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in the 10 years, have you ever had anybody come to you and tell you their stories and that they've seen it? Do you have a story in particular?
I've gotten actually lots of stories, especially recently. Um, you'd be surprised how many people have had experiences until you start talking about it. I've had people say, like, know that I am researching this and say, what's a Pukwudgie? And I'll explain it to them and they'll be like, oh, I think I've seen one of those.
That's
Well,
amazing.
But
What?
you can't you can't go to work and say, I think I saw a gnome in the woods.
That's true.
You
Right?
know, I
Huh.
mean, like Bigfoot's becoming, more mainstream. That, I mean, people might roll their eyes at you. Same with UFOs. But if you start saying you see little people, I think there's still stigma there, unless
yeah.
you're talking to the right person for sure. Um, I actually just interviewed Bill Russo, who had a very interesting sighting. He actually had one trying to communicate with him.
Huh.
So he was working second shift. So he got home. It was around midnight. He was walking his dog after work, and the dog started freaking out, shaking, growling, panicking, trying to pull him. And he started to hear this like high pitched voice, and it kept saying Iwanchu, Kia, Kia. And he got closer to where the sound was. There was one street light on this road, and this creature walked out into the light. And he said it was about 3 feet tall. It was covered in dark fur and it had the pot belly. It didn't have the quills like the traditional description, but it did have the pot bellies around the same size. And it was like beckoning, making a hand motion for him to come. And it kept saying the same thing over and over again, but like more urgently. Finally, the dog pulled him out of there. He said he doesn't know if he would have gone towards it had the dog not been there, but that dog was not having it at all. And what he thinks it was saying is, we want you, come here, come here.
Weird. Dude, that's scary as shit. I would not.
It's so scary.
I don't care if it's that tiny. I don't give a fuck. I ain't going near that.
And it plays, he is not a paranormal guy at all.
Oh, okay.
Didn't even know, even though he lived in the area, he didn't know anything about the Bridgewater Triangle. This was in the 90s. So he was not a paranormal guy, didn't know the folklore, had no idea what was going on. But there are a lot of legends of Pukwudgies trying to lure people places, either, further into the woods, or you'll see one that will try to lure you to where a group of them are. But they never are aggressive. Like, they're not going to like pop out and attack you. They're always trying to get you to go somewhere. So it was very much like the folklore here, even though he had no idea what the folklore was.
What do you think
So,
the Pukwudgies want with us? Is it like a sacrifice? Is it like, what do you think?
Sometimes it seems like if you get too close to something, they try to get you away from it. Like maybe the burial grounds. This guy's backyard was pretty much like in the Hockomock swamp. But So my bias is I don't ever think things are inherently evil. That's just how I am. But there are legends of them like abducting people even, or stealing babies.
Mm.
Specifically, they're known to steal children from bad parents. So again, that's only evil if you're the parents. But I mean, they might be doing a service to this kid.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds like an ET behavior too. At the same time, doing something to take somebody, even to study it. Why wouldn't they want their hands on something they can touch? Or if they had their own crazy agendas just to fuck with people. Because if I was an alien that went to a planet and there's this, so easy to fuck with, and I just got like a godlike status right away, I might
Thank
just
you
drop.
for saying that, because I did a live stream the other night where I said, like, an alien abduction and a Pukwudgie abduction don't sound too dissimilar, and I got dragged. People were not happy. It's the Native American curse people don't like when you want to talk about how it might be related to UFOs, or
because
it's
you're on the right trail. That's why, because they want
right.
to keep those secrets to their people, because that's the only last things they have from what the white man has not taken already. So yeah, I mean, I don't blame them. But again, no, it's all related to star people, and these things could be from the get-go, from the stars, and they again had their own agendas to maybe if I went to a planet that got like status, I'd maybe like start a little cult here, like, hey, get these people, I mean, make this one guy special so everybody will follow him when I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? I would just do some bunch of crazy shit because
what you might have an experience with whatever kind of entity, and whatever your personal beliefs are going to kind of color what that is. Like if you see a bright light in something with wings that's white, if you're religious, you're going to think it's an angel.
Sure.
You're not religious, maybe that's an alien.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference really? It's your personal biases kind of reflecting it.
Yeah.
My goodness. That's crazy. I'm sorry you got dragged like that. That's insane.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Like, I mean, everybody's entitled to their beliefs. Yeah,
that's
no, not at all. You're
we're free.
Here.
We're open-minded here. So, and free speech. This is your platform too.
I love talking to UFO people. My theories go over much better than like the flesh and blood Bigfoot people.
Sure.
They're not my fans really.
You don't mess around with the Bigfoot people. You don't. There's actually a few that I've been on some Bigfoot research podcasts, and some are pretty chill. They're pretty cool people, but I know exactly what you mean. There's some very hardcore ones out there that you're not going to mess with their beliefs or even their thoughts on it. But the Pukwudgie, though, I like particularly because I'm a paranormal investigator, psychic medium. I've done it for about 6 years. That being in the field myself, you see a lot of people that instantly go to demons, demonic, negativeness, shadow, dark people are evil. And when you said that, like, I particularly don't see everything as negative right off the bat, I love that about you, Susy. Like, absolutely love that. I think we need more people like you to lead in the sense of the cryptids, the paranormal, the UFO, because not everything is evil. And when you said that they sometimes in the lore that they would take children from abusive parents, or maybe ones who are not treating them well, that actually is kind of sweet. Like, I'm kind of on the Pukwudgie side right now. Right. I would be like, okay. So I really like that overall, that this creature, is gentle, but I don't know. See, for me, I'm kind of crazy because I'm a Sagittarius. So, here we go into the zodiac signs. I think if it was calling to me, I might be like, what's up? I'm going to go in there and see what it wants, because it's like, you never know.
Yeah. And it's a matter of,
would you follow one?
I definitely would. Yeah. I would die trying to pet a dog, man. So, I mean, don't what I do, but...
Same. Me and Susy. I'll just bring the cookies. We'll just go in. We'll just chill. We'll have some tea with the Pukwudgies. Yeah. See, I'm the same, because I would be like, I feel like even with cryptids, and this is so silly because it makes me almost sound like the people that cuddle with snakes. If you cuddle with a snake, that's cool, but it's just like they're sizing you up to eat you is what they're really doing. But it's like, for me, I feel like you can tell, like, in here, when something has good intentions versus not. If a skinwalker was going like this to me, I'd probably be like, nah, I'm good, But a Pukwudgie, anytime I've ever seen one, I've heard they can be aggressive, but then I heard that they're also gentle, more gentle. So I'd probably be like, yeah, I'm gonna go chill. I'm gonna go have lunch with the Pukwudgies
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, it's like if you're watching a nature documentary and it's filmed from the perspective of a cute little field mouse. If a hawk swoops down and grabs it, the hawk is the bad guy, right? But if it's filmed from the perspective of the starving hawk who finally gets a meal, like the same thing, you're cheering for that hawk that time. It's just how you look at it and, what side of it you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but I love that, the kindness, the looking at it from a more positive side.
Yeah, because
So
none of
your
the eyewitness sightings are ever, I mean, people are scared because they're seeing something weird, but there's no, no one's getting chased out of the woods by them. They're usually caught off guard as much as the human is in the situation.
Yeah.
And they just kind of, Bill's story is a little bit different, but a lot of the times it like they freeze in surprise when somebody stumbles upon one and will just kind of like stare at you like, what, you can see me? Like, what are you doing here? Kind of thing.
Sure. And
Yeah.
you wonder if Bigfoot or any of these other things run into each other, for being these, if they are like interdimensional, if they come through portals or they come through vortexes, or if there's this hot spots like you were saying, this triangle area, it might be has some openings to certain spots. So yeah, tell us more about this triangle too.
Yeah, one of the first things that made me think like maybe, it's more than just folklore is the other sightings that come with them. So in all the areas where you have Pukwudgie or little people stories, you have Bigfoot, you have strange lights in the sky, and thunderbirds. So the Bridgewater Triangle has all of them. They have the more traditional Bigfoot type sightings, but there's this one place, it's called the Nip. It's Lake Nippanicket, is a place where they're commonly seen, and they look more like orangutans than, the traditional Bigfoot, but there's not orangutans loose in the woods in Massachusetts. And then the Thunderbird sightings, and there's been more that were almost more like pterodactyl sightings too. And then there's one in particular that was almost like a Mothman type of creature rather than, just a huge bird. It was a police officer actually that spotted it. And I think this was 1970 or 1971, around there. So it was after Point Pleasant. But it was late at night. He was coming up to an intersection and he thought what he saw was a hitchhiker at first. And when he got closer, it sprouted wings and flew straight up. And he actually went back to the station and reported it. Like, that's how real this was to him. Got ridiculed.
Especially as a police officer, you gotta give him more of a benefit of the doubt there.
And then the people in this neighborhood where he saw it started coming out and saying, like, yeah, we see it all the time. And the neighborhood is actually called Bird Hill. And we don't know if that's related or if that's where the name came from. It had, no one knows why it was called that, but, it was just a weird coincidence.
Right.
Sounds Native American to me.
Yeah. Sounds like the perfect name for the town.
Yeah, right. We have Dundee Mountain here in Wisconsin where UFOs have been landing and hovering over for hundreds and thousands of years, where the Native Americans call it Spirit Hill. So again, it had crazy activity since the natives were there. So
Wisconsin has a lot of little people lore too.
Oh shit. Well, you should tell me more. I don't know much about that.
I found an article in a newspaper from Stratford, Wisconsin.
Oh, cool.
Okay. These people saw a group of little people running across the road. They were wearing blue. So it was more like the Indiana bowl cut Pukwudgies, and they
Oh,
actually called the police to come out. They
huh.
said, you know, it's just little people wearing blue that ran very, very fast. Called the cops.
Weird.
Cops didn't find anything. But there's another area. I was just reading about it. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there are little people that like to throw rocks at anyone that comes around the area. And that's another thing that happens here. There's multiple reports of like phantom rock throwing. Like you will just have, you know, rocks coming from all directions and no one can see where it's
Right.
coming from. So
Right.
that's something that happens in the Bridgewater Triangle a lot too.
Wow. So I heard Bigfoot does that too, like throw boulders and rocks
Yeah.
at people.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure um if Bigfoot and Pukwudgies are not related. Maybe they're cousins or you know, something like that. There is a lot of overlap there. Or you know, maybe it's this, you know, if it's ultra terrestrial or interdimensional, maybe it's the same energy manifesting in different
Sure.
ways.
Sure. No, it
Yeah.
makes you wonder too, because especially when you talk about when you have these sightings with Bigfoot or the little people, you see lights in the sky, and too,
Mhm.
so it makes you wonder, like, well, what's all this about? Or orbs too. It's like, huh,
Yeah, the orbs are real common. The Wampanoag call them Taipei Wonkas. It's it's really similar to the like the European will-o'-the-wisp concept.
Yep.
So like orbs of light that are like spirits. Um,
Mhm.
those are commonly associated with Pukwudgies. Sometimes you'll see the orb and it'll start moving, so you want to follow it, and then you see the Pukwudgie there, things like that. Um, one of my like pet theories is even without Pukwudgies, there's these orb of light sightings in the Hockomock Swamp, particularly in other areas too. But they start out as red and then they'll kind of cycle through different colors, but in order of the rainbow. So you've got the Roy G. Biv thing happening. But before red in the spectrum is infrared.
hmm,
So we can't see infrared light at all,
right,
but some dogs can. And a lot of the sightings will start with the dog noticing before the person does. Um, so there's also sometimes high pitched noises too. And that's the same thing. Dogs can hear higher pitched noises than we
right,
can,
right,
but every time, like, it's kind of like cycling through a spectrum or frequency type thing. Like it's starting on one end and then like cycling through to the other end and then it disappears. So whether it's, you know, using light to manifest or using like sound waves and frequencies to manifest, it's there's stories of both or sometimes both together that happen. But I think that is, or, you know, dogs just have a better sense than we do too there.
Mhm.
But it makes you wonder, like, are you walking past things all the time? If you don't have a dog with you to alert you to it,
mhm,
you're just, you know, completely unaware that you've walked by something.
yeah,
Mhm.
that makes you
It's so
wonder.
crazy how UFOs are the same with lights and sounds, and the Pukwudgie lights and sounds, and it's so interesting how those two, because I was saying the same thing. I think it was in the last episode. How I was like, I wonder if the way that they create energy is through electricity, through sounds. So I find that interesting because you said the same thing. So I'm like, there's
Yeah.
something.
Have you read any John Keel, the Mothman Prophecies guy?
I a very little bit. I like the Mothman. I like the Mothman.
The
Mhm.
book is much better than the movie. So
I never
yeah,
watched the movie.
okay,
I've never
good.
seen
Yeah,
it
I
either.
recommend. So the Mothman Prophecies is a really interesting book. There's actually little people sightings during the Mothman waves.
Mhm.
So somebody on the Ohio River, like across from Point Pleasant, saw a red light red orb of light along the riverbank, and then little people kind of, doing something on the riverbank with this red light. And you have, Mothman sightings at the same time, UFO sightings at that time. There's all this similar creatures and activity happening.
It's
Yeah, it
almost
makes
like
you
they're
wonder
all
too.
connected.
Yeah.
No,
In my mind, like, it's duh. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have.
Or it makes you like think that these ETs like created all these creatures and they just kind of release them whenever they want in certain spots and just to see what kind
Or,
of reaction they get from people.
right.
Because
So,
you go throughout
there's
history too. You see all these mixed creatures like in Egypt and other.
UFOs too. UFOs evolved. You used to have like the flying saucer type things, and
Yeah.
then at one point you had airships
Mhm.
that looked like the big blimps and things. Maybe
Mhm.
it's they know how to manifest to get the reaction that they want, or to be more like current with whatever is popular at the time.
Yeah. This makes you wonder what what drives these creatures to come out when they do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? What is the motives? I don't think we'll ever understand, but
Again, they had their own
Yeah.
agendas and maybe they just wanted to fuck with us, you know. Again, being
yeah.
such a
Yeah.
trickster character itself makes you wonder just they're here to fuck around with us.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's like going back hundreds of years, thousands of years, there's trickster stories. It's like kind of the oldest type of folklore is these tricksters.
Yeah.
And even, individuals throughout time have these stories of like speaking to what they thought was an alien or what they thought was an angel, and kind of like almost being groomed by it.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
at first it's telling you all these things and it's making prophecies that come true. And then when you start to trust it, it will give you these prophecies and you'll like freak out trying to stop this bad event from happening, and then it doesn't, and then you look crazy. There's countless stories of things like that happening, and cults have started based around that type of thing.
Mhm.
It's almost like you're just bored and messing with people, or you're feeding off of the energy from it,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Because I think the
Yeah.
jinn was another trickster
Yep.
creature it was more in the was it the um
Middle
was it
East.
Middle East, yeah, and India and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Makes you
Yeah. But
wonder.
also too with the gin is man-made.
Is it?
Most gins are man-made.
Uh,
Most of them are, and they're actually meant to be more of a, from my understanding, from my research. But Susy can correct me if she knows more. But from my understanding of the gin, and it's actually spelled DJINN, not like we typically would. Some people are like, Aladdin and the genie. It's kind of like that, but
yeah.
a jinn and a genie are the same thing, where they will take a spirit and lock it away in an object, and it becomes angry and volatile and violent because it's being held. But most of them are actually man-made to cause havoc and curses or bad energy or things like that. So a lot of these people that talk about their doll being haunted and things like that, it's the jinn. And I was like, most likely it's not, because you're talking about, a girl named Susy is in your doll, and most of the time jinns are made by Middle Eastern, back in the day, tribes, to cause havoc on other people. Yeah, so I don't, Susy, do you know a lot about jinns?
Not a lot, but basically that's my understanding of it too. It kind of reminds me of like that Dybbuk box story, trapping a spirit in something. He must have gotten it. That's all.
Well, he even came out and said it was bullshit.
Yeah.
He even came out and said, what was his name, man? Something. I knew his name off the top of my head because I did a podcast on it. But he came out and said it was bullshit. Like it was all made up. Like I made up the whole backstory of the woman and everything and the whole box and all that stuff.
I always
So
thought like he got that from the jinn, like he was using that legend because
right.
it's spirit trapped in something. That's a
Mhm.
jinn. but it
Yeah.
wasn't like from the same area, and it just didn't quite add up.
No, it didn't. But it was nice that he actually came out and said, by the way, I fooled everybody. Like, congratulations, you
I'm
guys
the
are
Jinn.
idiots.
I'm the real Jinn.
Yeah.
I'm that
Congratulations, you
trickster
guys are
god.
idiots. Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy.
That's weird.
So let's like turn a little bit of the energy to the Bridgewater Triangle. What is that for anybody listening who doesn't know a single thing about it?
So the name was given to the area by Lauren Coleman, the cryptozoologist. In the 70s, he came up with the name. It's not a triangle, though. It's a blob. It's a cool name, though.
We love the
But
blob.
It's just an
yeah,
area. It's a hot spot.
yeah, it's an area in Southeast Mass where it's a high strangeness area. Lots of ghosts, UFOs, strange lights, cryptids all over the place. Pukwudgies, Bigfoot, Thunderbirds, we already talked about. But also one of my favorites is the giant snakes.
Mm.
So these go back hundreds of years, like before the country was a country. And up until the most recent ones I know about were in the 70s, but there's sightings of giant snakes. They're said to be about 25 feet long and, as big around as a stovepipe is always the
Wow.
description given. Because that's
Sounds
what,
like an anaconda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. They had workers go in the 70s when they were doing some work to kind of clean up the land and also like make paths, like hiking trails through it. And they sent a group of construction workers in to work on that. And they came running out, refused to go back in because they kept seeing these giant snakes.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
No,
We don't
I'm
have big
out.
snakes here. It's too cold for them. They would not survive the winter in New England. No.
Yeah, it makes sense that it would be underground then. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am never going to the Bridgewater
There was
Triangle
I think
ever.
it was a case in it was Africa or if it was South America where some helicopter or plane flew, it was close to the ground and saw this gigantic snake where they had to go around again to see what they saw and take pictures of it. And it was like 60 feet long, fucking, I don't know how long or big around it was, huge. But again, they got so close to the ground, the plane did. The snake actually tried to bite at the plane when it came by it. So it shows you how big this fucker thing was. So again, like it's almost kind of like these prehistoric animals that kind of like,
Yep.
Still pass their genes on enough to survive the days here. Because there's stories in the Congo of like gigantic reptiles and bugs and dinosaurs, like I forgot the famous long neck dinosaur they natives claim they see. Yeah, the brontosaurus. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also kind of weird animal sightings. And I don't know how I feel about these, to be honest. There is something that seemed like a bear, but that area, it happened in the 70s and there weren't bear in that area then. And there was also an African lion. They found footprints, like real footprints. And a zoo came down, or not a zoo, maybe it was a zoologist that came down from Boston and did molds. And they said, yeah, that's an African lion. And someone that spotted it had worked at some kind of, they called it a Wild West show where they had an African lion. And he said, that was definitely an African lion that I saw. But this was also in the 70s when people did wild things like kept bears and lions as pets.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, people do that on the regular. Like, even in their fucking apartment, they have a fucking tiger in their apartment.
There have been documented things in this area where like someone's pet ocelot got loose, and, things like that. So I'm not sure there. Like, I can't call that paranormal.
Yeah.
you
You know,
know.
And
you know,
also
it's
they did drugs, so many drugs. Not that people don't now, but like that was like the height.
Right.
And so we have to like really take in as a paranormal investigator to, try to debunk it. A lot of people were on a lot of psychic drugs back then too.
yeah.
So it's like,
So it's like
oh,
this tiger was
um,
t testing my acid for me.
yeah, but it was just literally George the cat, from down the
George the
street,
cat. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm with Susie on that. It's just kind of like, Tiger King status, you just don't know
Yeah.
who's owning what. And I mean, people still own these massive animals in the
You know,
United States.
it's kind of funny. Here's a weird fact. Here in there's only 2 states in the US that you can legally have a kangaroo as a pet. And it's here in Wisconsin.
Florida. Oh,
No, it's
really?
Wisconsin and
I
I
was
think
going to say
Rhode Island or
Florida.
some shit like that. But no, there's actually a person that we know in the neighborhood and that lives like 3 blocks away has 2 kangaroos in their fucking backyard. In this nice neighborhood in the west side of Madison. I'm like, what the fuck?
How do you
So
that must cost an unbelievable amount
yeah,
to even get them here.
yeah, yeah. Or just to keep them healthy. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Very
To
weird.
each their own, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
To each
The
their
fact that we
own.
have them in
So
the
weird.
neighborhood is kind of like it does kind of trip you out. Like,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
right.
Australia stuff. So outside of the cryptids and your basic research, have you ever done any paranormal investigations? Have you ever done any research on UFOs? Like how far does your research go? Where does it stop?
I actually have been talking with a paranormal investigation team about joining them this summer, local here. I've done non-professional stuff, since I was a teenager. We always were up to something. And I've spent a lot of time in the Hockomock Swamp. I've actually stayed overnight there, hoping to see something.
You're a badass. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's badass. I'd be scared as shit in a swamp.
It was cold. I did it on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve this year. It was December.
Holy
I was
shit,
crazy.
girl.
Don't,
Good
yeah,
for
if
you.
you're gonna do it in July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So what is your thoughts on obviously the paranormal is my, expertise, I guess, as you could say. There really aren't any experts in the paranormal, but they're professionals, right? Because you
Right.
can't really be an expert on something we don't understand. But what would be your hopes to getting into paranormal investigations? What are you hoping to learn more about? What are you most excited about? What are you trying to debunk, find? I'm interested.
I feel like the more you are close to weird things, the more weird things might start happening to you.
Oh yeah.
I want that very badly. I think I want it too bad, and that's why nothing ever happens to me, possibly. But it just to learn more too. And, like I was never interested in UFOs before. They were just kind of boring to me. Like, yeah, of course there's stuff we don't know what it is in the sky. But then when I started realizing like there were connections with other things, that really opened my eyes to a lot. So I'm thinking, maybe getting in some haunted houses could do the same too. I no idea how that would be related yet, but I'll learn something no matter what.
Yeah.
So,
Do you get scared easily?
no, I don't have a healthy fear at all.
You're gonna
like
make a great investigator.
Let's say you're like the Scully from X-Files.
Yes. I was literally gonna say she gives me X-Files vibes, and I didn't
know,
want to
right?
be rude by saying that, but she
Scully was
does. She
like
gives
She's a
me
redhead.
Spurs vibes.
She was like my first crush too, growing up.
Same.
So that's
And
like the
Mulder.
biggest compliment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, you seriously, I was gonna say that like 15 minutes ago. She gives me like Scully from X-Files
I'm
vibes,
so
and
glad
I
I
love
dropped
it.
it.
I didn't want her to be like, oh, really?
Yeah. No, I definitely get that
But
feel
yeah,
and the look. You
paranormal.
definitely get the look.
Yeah, you do. You're very serious. You're beautiful, but you're like,
Yeah.
you know your shit. Don't
Yeah.
fuck with me. You're a badass. You'll go stay outside in the
That's
Christmas
cool.
Eve and the freezing cold. That's pretty cool.
And I love the independent research. I'm all about that. The people
Yeah.
who have the drive and not give a fuck what other people say or think, because
Right.
that's it just slows other people down, your work down, and yeah, because I just love the open-mindedness of people, and just hearing their awesome stories and theories of what they're seeing and what they're investigating, because it is a weird fucking world. I mean, I had my own personal
Yeah.
experience too, and
Yeah.
Luna has enough to like
Mhm.
make us think a certain way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again,
I mean, I
I'm
have a
very
ghost
open-minded.
named Edward that chills in my house. A ghost named Edward. He just chills and
He's just
doesn't do
chilling.
anything wrong. He just does weird all the time. He'll move my dishes. He'll do weird things. And I'm like, dude, Edward. And it's become like, I'm going to tell you, Susie, you become a part of the paranormal. Shit's going to follow you and it's going to stay with you. And weird stuff. Like most people would be like, oh my God, my dishes just moved. And I'd be like, Edward, could you stop? And that's just like how weird it is because it's so normal for me that I'm telling my ghost, like, hey, could you not do that when most people would run out of their house, you know? So weird stuff is going to happen. So just be prepared for it.
Yeah. I am hoping. Yeah.
Yep. It will. Just be open to it. You know, obviously, you know, with the paranormal, I don't know how much you know about the paranormal, but I always tell anybody, especially females, unfortunately, I got to say this, be very careful who you trust. Be very careful who you decide to sign contracts with and do things with. You're a very
It's a
beautiful girl.
cesspool.
You're very smart. You have a lot to offer, and a lot of people like to use other people in the paranormal to get other places. So make sure to protect that aura of yourself. Make sure to know. And if you ever need advice, you can just ask me because I've been around the paranormal field quite a lot. So you can always ask me who too. But I'm not
I
saying
live
everybody's bad.
in Ed and Lorraine Warren country. I live about an hour from where they did. And there is a lot of paranormal drama here.
Oh yes.
Due to that involving their,
Oh yeah.
their son-in-law that took over. And that kept me away from it.
Okay.
I'm like, these people are always at each other's throats. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not getting
Yep.
involved in that community at all. But not everyone is like that. And I have
No.
found people that are, more down to earth and in it for the right reasons.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. So what would be your hopes going into paranormal investigation to find, to learn more about?
I would love to question my atheism, you know, um, e- be exposed to anything new, um, maybe prove myself wrong because I've kind of gone back and forth in what I believed in and what I haven't. And I flip flop on that a lot.
Sure. Sure.
So I'd like to have something that, makes me flip one way or the other towards that. And
Honestly,
also,
I think being an atheist is the best paranormal investigator,
yeah,
hands down, because you're not instantly going to jump and say that knock was a ghost. You're going to be like,
or a
it was a
demon.
knock. It was a knock, you know?
Yeah.
So I actually think that that's a strong suit about you going into paranormal. And when you are going to experience something flying across the room, you're going to be like, okay, I just saw something flying across the room. I can't explain that one, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it annoys me to no end that I don't know if it's like this everywhere or if it's like this here because of the Warrens, but
It's
everything is a
everywhere.
demon all the time. Like
Yeah.
everyone wants to say everything is a demon, everything's evil, everything's
Yeah.
scary. It irks me. Like you don't know their side of the story too. Like you might be the evil one from their perspective.
Yeah.
And why I'm sure there's dangerous, scary stuff out there, but not everything is.
Yeah. If anything that's scary on this earth is the humans on it.
The humans are, yeah.
They're very capable of like physically tearing you apart with pleasure, and
Yeah.
torture.
The people in the
It's insane.
paranormal are more
Like,
terrifying
what?
and dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. We got psycho serial killers running around.
Yeah, I
Oh,
already
Christ.
retired after 6 years, if that tells you anything from the paranormal field, because it's just so much, you know. But yeah, don't get me started on the Ed and Lorraine Warren stuff. That's very much like it's just a lot. But I'm really excited. So are you gonna like start a YouTube channel? Are you going to like document any of your findings?
Yeah, I was just talking to them about that actually. I did just recently post my first YouTube video when I did the Bill Russo interview because that was just such a great story. Like, and the way he tells it is great. and I had to like get that out there. So I have a blog, I've started the YouTube. I'm getting peer pressure to start a podcast, but I also am a single mom with a full-time job, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much you could juggle at one time. But
Right.
we'll definitely have you back here to do more podcasts, just give you get your name out there, because we got a following, and we have a lot of positive people that are I haven't dealt with anybody too negative towards our podcast or anything. So again, people who are listening are free thinkers and open-minded, and
that's why I got into this, because it just seemed like so many people were accepting this one BS story and explanation behind it, and the curse thing, it's just lazy. It's a little bit racist maybe too, but
I love this girl so much.
Well, you guys are gonna be best friends now. This is awesome.
Oh, you are gonna piss people off left and right, Susie, in the paranormal field, and I love it. You continue.
That's what you should do. Keep pissing them off.
Yeah, the hate mail I got was a white man who wrote a book about the Bridgewater Triangle on the premise that it's a curse. Like chapter 1 is called Cursed Land. I'm like, okay, that's why you're mad at me, because because you can't sell books. Oh my God. I'm out here saying that.
Yeah,
you are so smart, and
the fact that someone like that who has a book that's reaching out to you to say something, it's kind of like.
And then block me. So
it's like I'm just this little independent researcher, and I got underneath your skin. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm all about that.
Made it.
And I'm all about that. That's so tight.
Yep.
Good for you.
Just wait till you get the death threats. That's also cool too.
Right. Yeah. I've heard a lot about that from like women in paranormal too, especially getting it from men who I don't understand why. I mean, Dustin's not like that, obviously, but some.
Are you sure? No, I'm kidding.
He's outnumbered here. He's not going to say that.
No, he's not. He's amazing. No, but yeah, it's a very cutthroat industry for women, and I'm not trying to make the show all about like feminism or whatever, because that's not even it at all. But yeah, it's I think the whole point of talking about it is to open up people's minds who want to get started in it and understand this field is very dangerous as well as it is rewarding. There are some amazing people you are going to meet and be friends with and consider family, and there's going to be some horrible people, about 90% of them, that you're going to meet in this field. And I think your personality, who you are, how smart you are, you're going to challenge a lot of people, and they're going to hate that. And you know what? You continue to keep challenging. You continue to piss people off, because we need people that are more like you, who are level-headed, grounded. Not everything's a demon. A demon didn't crawl up your ass every time you're in a mansion. Like, it's nice, and it's a breath of fresh air. And you can always reach out to me to send your name out to everybody I know. So you are more than welcome to use me, abuse me for any of that, because I am a fan. I am already a fan of Susie.
Oh, cool. Me too. And yeah, Luna's got quite the following too, and they're pretty loyal to her, the ones that are really cool. But yeah, again, I'm here to get your name out, here to promote your stuff. Again, I was very intrigued to hear about this creature that, again, I didn't know it had a rich history being here for thousands of years. So it's like, and I'm all about that. I love the Native American folklore, and
and that's kind of one of the things that about them is they're so overlooked. Like, they're almost invisible. They're in
you never hear them.
No.
Like, no one ever talks about them, but when you start to dig, they're everywhere.
Yeah, that's funny, because
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's like 6 months ago, we interviewed a woman that actually had like a stuffed I can't even pronounce the name. Pukwudgie. Yeah. Pukwudgie. Is it? Do you have one? Yes, it's just that one. Yeah, she had it sitting on her microphone, just chilling.
It's so cute.
I know exactly who that is, though. Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah, she's more of the UFO girl, but yeah. She's been on our show. You know what is really weird about that? That we had it was recording, but it didn't, like, after the recording, it didn't like stay on the computer. It just vanished. I was like, no, because she has such she's got a humongous following, like on TikTok and everything else. And she goes to the Congress hearings and stuff. Like, she's really into and she knows, like, is it Jimmy Kimball. Am I saying his name?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Kimmel.
Yeah. But no, yeah, again, this is awesome. Cool.
Yeah. You're such a badass. I love it. And I can't wait for you to start getting up into social media and people finding out your name more. Because I really do think that the Pukwudgie thing is going to be, because of your atheism, I understand the psychic mediumship might just be, weird to you, but I am a psychic medium and I keep hearing over and over again, Pukwudgie is definitely going to be a massive outlet for you within the paranormal community. I think you are going to start a trend, and it might not necessarily be the greatest for you because people are going to run with it, but I think that that's something you should hold dear to you, hold close to you, and make that yours, so that you're known for Susy's the one who started the Pukwudgie stuff.
Let me be open-minded here, and I'll tell you the story about finding out about my own family from looking into Pukwudgies, because my woo part of my brain says, that's why I was drawn to them. But there's this one place in the Hockomock Swamp called Anawan's Rock. And it's a place where people go to do EVPs a lot. There is like phantom fire, full body apparitions, that kind of thing there. In the story, not the story, like the real history of the place was during King Philip's War, which was basically the Pilgrims trying to slaughter the Wampanoag tribe. Not trying to, they did. When they killed King Philip, who was the chief of the Wampanoag, Chief Anawan took over for him. And he was hiding out in the swamp because the Europeans were afraid of the swamp. But they sent this one guy named Benjamin Church in to find him, which he did. And he told Anawan, like, if you surrender, we won't kill you. We're just going to take you to Plymouth. And so he did. And he also gave them their wampum belt, which was, it was like a sacred ceremonial piece of clothing. Mm-hmm. And Church took him back up to Plymouth, and then he had to go for a few days. He had to leave. And he had promised him, if you surrender peacefully, you'll live. When Church left, they beheaded Anawan and put his head on a pike. So when I was looking into this, I said, what kind of monster would do that? And I dug and dug. I actually had to go up to Boston to go to the library there to read these old books because, nothing said it. And when I finally found it, it was Thomas Hinckley, who is my 7th great uncle.
Huh. Whoa. You are destined for this shit. That is insane.
There is no such thing as coincidences.
No, that's some shit. Wow. Dang, you give me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And growing up, so this guy, same guy, was the last
you were right.
colony. And I always grew up hearing how great of a guy he was, right? Like, you're related to the last governor of Plymouth Colony, yada, yada. He was a monster. He was horrible. I've gotten my hands on old letters and articles he's written. Horrible person. So I've gone out of my way to learn a lot about that period of history. You can't look at the Bridgewater Triangle without looking at King Philip's War. But that was it changed my life finding that out.
Yeah.
I had an identity crisis. My family has other things too, but you're related to the person that started the slaughter of Native Americans in the country. He wasn't just involved in it. He started it, and this guy thought that this disease that had wiped out some of the Wampanoag before they got here meant that God had intended for them to live here, and he sent that plague to kill them off because this was their land, and yada yada. I'm like, oh, and I had this huge identity crisis about it. I think it was important for me to learn that.
Yeah.
I
think that Yeah, it's so interesting because you are obviously, just because it's blood doesn't mean you're the same person. It doesn't mean you think the same way. And you could definitely
No.
be that person who does the opposite now. You teach people, you have them understand the gentleness, understanding the creature, understanding the land, understanding the history. So you are not defined by him, but I think definitely because of your blood, everything happens for a reason. There's no such thing as coincidences. This was definitely your path for a reason. And
Yeah.
your blood, so on, so forth, as it continues down the road for hundreds of years, will probably find themselves in the same path as you.
Yep.
People don't just get into this for no reason. You're drawn to it.
Yeah, because it was an obsession for me before I knew that even.
Yeah.
And I never had a reason why. Like it's a random, obscure niche thing to get into.
Huh. That's super interesting. And then again, a
Yeah.
full circle, of like,
Mhm.
man, just in that general area too.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And you still stayed in that area.
Yep. So the person that, because the swamp is huge, it's like 500 acres, like you'd get lost in there. The person that took me, my 7th grade uncle murdered his 9th great grandfather. And we happened to meet in a store and have a conversation that led to us figuring that out.
Wow.
Dang.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's insane. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
You're definitely
So
breaking the mold.
I've never had any, like, I've never seen anything or had any weird experiences except weird synchronicities left and right like that. That's, I guess, you could call that paranormal, I guess. But it's
Destiny.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're destined to do this. I'm telling you, they tell me that you're destined to do this. This is definitely your thing. And I think you're going to go
Yeah.
pretty far with it. I think you're going to start something that people want to copy and want to follow. And, I don't know if you're thinking about writing a book, but you probably should, because I keep hearing that you need to write a book. You need to write a book. So if you haven't started one, you probably should.
I've got 2 sentences done, and I hate both the
Okay.
sentences, but I've started.
It is tedious. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
once you do get over that hump, yeah, more people would be interested. Again, like just like me, for no one who I didn't know what this was, and it just seeing it is like awesome eye candy. I was just like, whoa. And the fact that it looked like you were very knowledgeable and you have like this total interest in this cryptic creature, enough to like, you know, brand yourself with it. Again, I was so intrigued and wanted to know more about you and what this creature was, and the fact that you were passionate about, especially when you didn't have a personal experience yourself yet, but you still have the drive and belief and just want to figure it out because this is weird shit around this area
Yeah.
that's happening.
Yep.
So
And I love,
I admire
like,
that. It's so cool.
people that have had experiences need to know that other people have.
Yeah.
And I am happy to, if you need to get a story off your chest, you at least have one person that won't think you're crazy. And
Sure.
you just know that there have been a lot of people who have thought they were crazy until they talked to me about it. Things that you wouldn't believe, like seeing a leprechaun, like being in the bathroom of a grocery store. These things, happen to people, which 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed them. But now I would. After everything I've heard, there's so many stories out there. So many people see these things or have these experiences, and they're all very similar. So I just feel like people need to know that they're not crazy if they've had this experience.
Sure. And if I ever come across people who want to talk about stories about something similar, I would invite you back just to have just a person that knows more about this stuff than we do, and then they can give some more feedback for that person, or just make that person feel better about themselves, what they saw,
Yeah,
or
give them, like, connections and similar things that have happened to other people too. It's always, I think it's good to hear that you're not alone when
Right.
you've had something like that happen.
Especially if you said that there's some here in Wisconsin. I'm sure I can find some stories of somebody saw something crazy.
That newspaper article I found in
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Why don't we wrap it up for now? And yeah, we'll have you back on again. That'd be fucking awesome. That was super
anytime.
awesome. Is there any like
Yeah.
websites or emails or platforms that people can find you at right now after this?
Yep. My blog is pukwudgies.blogspot.com. There is a contact form there. But if you search Susy Bastille on any social media, except for Twitter, you'll find me. But I'm on Facebook and TikTok most often. So
Sweet.
always happy to talk to people about little people on Facebook, especially. I'm always there spouting off about it.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So everybody that's interested, contact Susy right down below.
Give her a
here.
follow, guys. Let's give her a follow.
So yeah, I want you to stick with us for 2 more minutes here.